A lot of the time in our lives, we often wait for good things to happen to us rather than going out and taking action to make them happen for us. Now, a lot of the times you're going to hear on social media, or like you get these motivational guys, they'll come up to you, they'll be like, oh, it's now or never, it's now or never, it's now or never. I feel that's right in some aspect, but sometimes it's just not true. You need to be able to learn when to make that decision for yourself. And in that aspect, yeah, it's a now or never situation. It's either you make the decision on what to do now, or you never make it because you don't know about if you're going to be able to make it later. But in the sense that for some things you need to wait, it's true. Some things you do have to wait for, because it's like Bill Withers says, good things come to those who wait, but not to those who wait too late. So in saying that, you need to be able to discern when do you wait and when do you take action. I feel like the taking action bit is a part of the now or never situation. You do need to take action as soon as you can. Um, Life is never where you're going, but where you are. So you need to be able to let go of the expectation that the universe will magically deliver it to you, and learn to just be able to grab it by the reins and just like pull it to you. Do you know what I mean? You are in charge of the change in your own life, so why would you sit around not making the decision? Now, the decision doesn't have to be immediate action, okay? It's undoubtable that some moments are way better to make actions, but the decision isn't taking the action in itself, but rather knowing that you have to take the action and deciding when to take the action. It's a really tentative balance between knowing that you can't wait too long, otherwise you'll lose the moment, and not going too early because you'll lose the moment. And in saying that, you know, we often open our minds up to overzealous thought, and we forget what the purpose is, what the purpose of what we're trying to do actually is. Our minds sort of go off on a tangent, and that's really dangerous because you can really become obsessed with with an idea or a thought or a person or something. You can get really obsessed with an attachment of this thing when you're subjugated to overzealous thought. So trying to find a balance is incredibly hard, and ultimately it's really important, because if you're unable to find the balance, then there's like multiple scenarios where everything could go wrong, where you either go in too early, guns blazing, thinking now or never, and you end up not being able to do it because you weren't patient, or you take too long and the moment passes itself over because, or maybe you were too patient, or maybe too patient isn't even the word. You were fearful that a negative outcome was going to occur. Or maybe like in the process of waiting, you sort of get attached to the idea of an expectation, or you get attached to the idea of just doing. And attachment isn't ever good, in any sense, to anything. You need to sort of be able to detach at any given moment. The only attachment you should have is between you and the universe itself, not the individual components of the universe. So waiting in itself is a byproduct of overzealous thought, or overzealous thought rather is a byproduct of waiting in itself, because we overthink the situation. Oh, have I entered too early? Have I entered too late? And then it sort of becomes a cycle in our mind where, okay, I'm thinking about this over and over and over and over again. It's problematic, you know? And then at that point, your life stops being about your living. It starts becoming about this thing, this idea, this concept. And you know, is a life lived in thought of a thing that isn't you a life well lived? That's a question for you to have. And not in an egotistical way, but you should learn to see the beauty in yourself. Because if beauty is in the eye of the beholder and you behold everything you see, what prevents you from seeing the beauty in yourself? We're so quick to notice the beauty in others, the beauty in other items, the beauty of a concept, and we get attached to that beauty. But why are we unable to see that in ourselves in the same regard? Well, that's to say that you have to live in the moment, right? Because, again, the whole concept of waiting is such a tentative balance, you know? On one aspect, you'll hear influencers, gurus, teachers on YouTube or TikTok or whatever saying, it's now or never. You got to take your action now. You got to sacrifice your 20s to live it up in your 30s. Or you got to sacrifice your 30s to live it up in your 40s or whatever it is. And you need to just take action now. And in some aspect, that's true. You need to be able to learn to make the decision of what you want to do with your life early on so that you can make the decisions when the time comes. But then on the other hand, you'll get people saying, oh, you need to be patient with everything and, you know, the universe will provide. And that's dangerous as well, because that opens you up to the concept of just being lazy, of you never taking any action and just expecting everything to just magically fall into your lap. And that's never going to happen. That never will. It's not true. It doesn't. Some people get lucky, some people don't get lucky, but the universe won't drop £1 million into your lap. The universe won't drop happiness into your lap. The universe won't drop you into your lap. And in that aspect, we need to learn to stop waiting too long for things that are fruitless and learn to take action. But then again, when do we take the action? Well, that's for you to decide. That's for you to decide when you should take the action, because there needs to be a right moment for you. I was listening to a podcast by Ryan Holiday. Well, not by Ryan Holiday, featuring Ryan Holiday, not too long ago. And the universe will often whisper many things to you regarding what you need to do, you know. And when you're not listening to those whispers, it shouts in your face. And when it shouts in your face, then you're forced to take the action. So we need to learn to take the action when we're listening to when the universe is just whispering. But to be able to hear the whispering, you need to be present enough in the moment to realize the whispering. You need to be connected to the universe enough to realize the whispering. So keep being you, keep being great. Learn to feel the universe within you, and that you and the universe are one and the same. So when it whispers, you hear the whispering, and that's when you take your action. Alternatively, you could wait for the whispering to get louder to the point where it screams in your face. But it's like, what was the example? Steve Jobs, when he got fired from Apple and he had to restart it all because this was his company. Obviously, he would have gotten signs, but the firing obviously jump-started his immediate change in what he was doing. And before that, well, maybe he could have changed. He didn't. The universe was whispering, and then it screamed in his face when he got fired. And that's when he decided to make the change. That's good for some people, not good for others. End of the day, just be present so you can hear the whispering and you can make the decision on when to do what you want to do. So wait, but don't wait too late. That's all.